Kang Daehyun had been untouchable for 12 years. 12 years of building an empire where no one questioned him, no one challenged him, and absolutely no one ever told him no. Until the morning Dr. Zara Mitchell walked into his boardroom during the most important negotiation of his career and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "This deal is a mistake. Don't sign it." 23 executives froze. His CFO went pale. His legal team looked like they were witnessing a suicide. Because you didn't interrupt Kang Daehyun. You didn't contradict him in public. And you certainly didn't walk into his multi-million-dollar real estate negotiation with a European conglomerate and announce that he was making a mistake, not if you valued your career or your life. Daehyun set down his pen very slowly. Looked at this woman he'd never seen before, tall, black, professionally dressed, holding a leather portfolio like she had every right to be there. And you are. His voice was silk over steel. Dr. Zara Mitchell, economic analyst. Your mother hired me yesterday to review this deal. She walked to the head of the table, his seat, and placed a report in front of him. The property you're about to purchase has environmental contamination your team missed. Section 7, Clause 12. Cleanup costs will exceed the property value by 40%. You'll lose $300 million in the first year. The European representatives started whispering. His CFO grabbed the report, flipping frantically to Section 7. Daehyun's jaw tightened. My team has vetted this deal for 6 months. Then your team missed something critical. I found it in 6 hours. Would you like me to explain the chemical analysis, or would you prefer to sign a contract that will bankrupt this division? The room held its breath. Daehyun stood, walked around the table, stopped directly in front of her. He was taller, broader. A man who'd built his reputation on physical and psychological intimidation. Zara didn't move. Didn't blink. Just looked at him with the calm, clinical assessment of someone reading a balance sheet. My mother, he said quietly, hired you. Yesterday. After she reviewed the preliminary contracts. She said, and I quote, "My son is brilliant, but he's surrounded by yes-men who are afraid to tell him when he's wrong. Find out if this deal is legitimate or if he's about to destroy everything we've built." His CFO cleared his throat. Sir, she's right. The contamination report is here. We missed it. The Europeans were already gathering their documents, reading the room correctly. This negotiation was over. Daehyun never broke eye contact with Zara. Everyone out. The room emptied in under 30 seconds. Only Zara remained, still standing at the head of the table, completely unfazed by being alone with a man who'd reportedly ended careers with a single phone call. You just cost me $800 million, Daehyun said. I just saved you $300 million and your reputation. You're welcome. My mother has no authority to hire consultants without my approval. Your mother owns 51% of this company's voting shares. Technically, she has all the authority. Zara opened her portfolio, pulled out another document. She's also concerned about 17 other deals you've made in the past 2 years. She wants me to audit all of them. Absolutely not. Then you can discuss it with her. She's expecting us for dinner tonight. 7 p.m. Her estate. Don't be late. She walked toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Mr. Kang, your reputation for being untouchable. It's hurting you. Everyone's too afraid to tell you the truth. That's how mistakes like this happen. You might be the most powerful man in the room, but power without accuracy is just an expensive failure waiting to happen. She left. Daehyun stood alone in his boardroom, absolutely furious and, for the first time in 12 years, genuinely uncertain about what would happen next. Because Dr. Zara Mitchell had just done something no one had managed in over a decade. She'd walked into his territory, challenged his authority, saved him from disaster, and walked out alive. Without asking permission for any of it. And his mother, the one person in the world who still treated him like he was 12 years old instead of a corporate king, had apparently found the one weapon that could actually penetrate his armor, someone who simply didn't care about his power. This was going to be a problem. Madame Kang Sunmi's estate was where Daehyun had grown up, where his father had built the family empire, where power and tradition lived in every piece of furniture. He arrived exactly on time. A small rebellion. She'd expected him to be late, to make a point. He was making a different point. He was taking this seriously. Zara was already there, sitting in the formal dining room with his mother, both of them drinking tea like old friends. "You're early," Sunmi said, pleased. "Dr. Mitchell was just telling me about the contamination report." "Excellent work, as expected." "Mother, we need to talk. Privately. Anything you want to say can be said in front of Dr. Mitchell. She'll be working closely with you for the foreseeable future." Dae-hyun sat down heavily. "I don't need a babysitter." "You need someone who isn't terrified of you," Sunmi corrected. "Your entire executive team is so afraid of contradicting you that they nearly cost us $300 million. That ends now. Dr. Mitchell will review every major deal. She has full access to all financial records, all contracts, all negotiations. She reports directly to me. And you will cooperate. This is insane. This is survival. You've become so isolated in your power that you've stopped seeing clearly. Your father made the same mistake. It got him killed." The room went silent. Dae-hyun's father had been assassinated 12 years ago by a business partner he'd trusted. A partner his advisors had warned him about, but he'd ignored them. "That's not fair," Dae-hyun said quietly. "It's completely fair. You're brilliant, my son. But brilliance without perspective becomes arrogance. And arrogance gets people killed." Zara spoke for the first time since he'd arrived. "I'm not here to undermine you, Mr. Kong. I'm here to make sure the decisions you make are based on complete information. You can still make the final call. I just make sure you're not missing critical data. And if I refuse?" Sunmi set down her teacup with a decisive clink. "Then I exercise my majority voting rights and remove you as CEO. Don't test me, Dae-hyun. I love you. But I love this family's legacy more." He'd never seen his mother threaten him before. Not seriously. Not like this. She meant it. "Fine," he said through gritted teeth. "She can audit the deals. But she stays out of my way otherwise. She'll work from the office adjacent to yours. Close proximity ensures efficient communication. That office is my private strategic planning room." "It was your private strategic planning room. Now it's Dr. Mitchell's office. She starts tomorrow." Dinner was excruciating. Sunmi asked Zara about her background. Zara explained she had a PhD in economics from MIT, had worked for the IMF, had consulted for Fortune 500 companies on risk assessment. She was absurdly qualified, which somehow made it worse. "Why would someone with your credentials work for a family business?" Dae-hyun asked, unable to help himself. "Because your mother offered me equity. And because I find family dynamics in corporate structures fascinating. You're a case study in what happens when inherited power meets contemporary business strategy." "I'm a case study?" "A very interesting one. Most CEOs who inherit power become either reckless or paralyzed. You became controlled to the point of isolation. It's a unique response to trauma. I didn't experience trauma. Your father was murdered when you were 22, and you immediately took over a multi-billion-dollar criminal-adjacent organization while grieving. That's textbook trauma." Dae-hyun stood. "I need air." He walked out to the terrace. The Seoul skyline glittered below, the city he controlled, the empire he'd protected. Zara followed him. Because of course she did. "You're angry," she observed. "You just psychoanalyzed me at my mother's dinner table. You asked why I took the job. I answered honestly. Honesty without tact is just cruelty. And tact without honesty is just manipulation. I thought you'd appreciate directness. Isn't that how you operate?" He turned to face her. "You don't know how I operate. I know you've made yourself untouchable because being vulnerable got your father killed. I know you don't trust anyone because trust is what betrayed him. I know you work 18-hour days because stopping means thinking, and thinking means feeling, and feeling is dangerous. Stop. I know you're exhausted. I know you're lonely. And I know you hate that I can see it." "You've known me for 8 hours," Dae-hyun said, his voice dangerously quiet. "I've known men like you my entire career. Powerful, intelligent, isolated. You're not as unique as you think you are. Then why are you here? If I'm just another predictable case study." Zara looked out at the city. "Because your mother asked me to save you. And because underneath the armor and the intimidation and the untouchable act, I suspect there's someone worth saving." She walked back inside, leaving him alone on the terrace with a truth he wasn't ready to acknowledge. She'd been in his life for less than 12 hours and had already seen through every defense he'd spent 12 years building. This wasn't just going to be a problem. This was going to be a war. Zara started work the next morning, 7 a.m. Before he arrived, when Dae-hyun walked into his office at 7:30, there was already a report on his desk. Preliminary analysis, 17 contracts requiring immediate review. He went to her office, his former strategic planning room, and found her surrounded by documents, 3 computer screens, and a whiteboard covered in financial projections. You've been here for 30 minutes and you're already reorganizing my business? I've been here for 2 hours. And I'm not reorganizing. I'm identifying risk exposure. 3 of your real estate deals have the same environmental clause loophole. Someone's targeting you specifically. That got his attention. Explain. She pulled up a spreadsheet. Same law firm drafted all 3 contracts. Same deliberate omission in the environmental section. Same contamination pattern in the properties. This isn't coincidence. Someone's setting you up for catastrophic financial loss. Who? I don't know yet. But I'll find out. For the next 6 hours, they worked side by side. Her analyzing contracts. Him making calls to legal teams, demanding explanations. By 2 p.m., they'd identified the pattern. A rival organization had placed someone inside his legal department. Every contract they'd reviewed had been compromised. This could have destroyed me, Dae-hyun admitted. That was the goal. Your enemies are patient. They weren't trying to kill you quickly. They were building a financial bomb that would detonate in 3 years. And you found it in 18 hours. Because I wasn't looking to confirm your brilliance. I was looking for the truth. Your team does the opposite. The days that followed established a rhythm. Zara would arrive at 7 a.m. with coffee, black, no sugar, exactly how he took it though he'd never told her. She'd brief him on overnight developments. He'd make decisions based on her analysis. They argued. Constantly. About strategy, about risk, about whether relationships with certain business partners were worth maintaining. But the arguments were different. She didn't argue to win. She argued to find the right answer. And when he made a good point, she acknowledged it. You're wrong about the Singapore expansion, she said one afternoon. I've been planning that expansion for 2 years. And the market conditions changed 6 months ago. Look at these currency projections. You'd lose 15% to exchange rates alone. He studied her data. She was right. Again. I hate that you're always right. I'm not always right. I'm thorough. There's a difference. 3 weeks in, something shifted. They were working late 10 p.m., office empty except for them, when she laughed at something he said. A real laugh. Not professional courtesy. Genuine amusement. What? He asked. You made a joke. I didn't think you knew how to make jokes. I'm not a robot. Could have fooled me for the first 2 weeks. He smiled. Actually smiled. You've been here 3 weeks and you're already comfortable enough to insult me? I've been insulting you since day one. You're just finally relaxed enough to recognize it as teasing instead of insubordination. There's a difference? With me? Always. They ordered food. Ate in her office because his was too formal, too cold. And somewhere between the financial reports and the late-night noodles, he realized she wasn't just protecting his business. She was making him remember what it felt like to have a partner. A real one. Someone who challenged him because she cared about the outcome, not because she was afraid of him. Why do you do this? He asked. Analyze contracts? Care. About outcomes. You could just collect your salary and file reports. But you're here at 10 p.m. working through currency projections for an expansion that doesn't affect your compensation. She looked up from her noodles. Because excellence matters. Because when I do something, I do it completely. And because. She paused. Because you're not actually untouchable. You're just surrounded by people who are too afraid to touch you. And that's lonely. You think I'm lonely? I know you're lonely. You've built walls so high that no one can reach you. It's effective for power. Terrible for humanity. And you're going to save my humanity? I'm going to remind you it exists. What you do with that information is up to you. The conversation shifted to something else. But her words stayed with him. That night, alone in his penthouse, he realized something that should have terrified him, but instead felt strangely inevitable. He was starting to need her. Not just her analysis. Her presence. her challenges, her absolute refusal to treat him like he was untouchable. She made him feel human again. And he had no idea what to do about it. The attack came on a Wednesday. Dae-hyun was in a board meeting when his head of security burst in. "Sir, we have a situation. Dr. Mitchell's been kidnapped." The world stopped. What? She was leaving her apartment this morning. 3 men, unmarked vehicle. Security footage shows they used chloroform. Professional operation. His blood went cold. When? 30 minutes ago. Dae-hyun was out of his chair and moving before anyone could react. Jin-ho, his second in command, followed. "Sir, we don't know who." "I know exactly who. The same people who planted the contaminated properties. She found their pattern, exposed their operative in our legal department. This is retaliation. What do we do?" "Find her. Mobilize everyone. I want every resource, every contact, every asset we have focused on this. Now." For 12 years, Dae-hyun had been controlled. Strategic. Never emotional. That ended the moment someone touched Zara. He tore through his rival's operations like a force of nature. Called in favors from police contacts. Activated street-level informants. Used every tool in his considerable arsenal. And somewhere in the controlled chaos of searching, he realized something that should have been obvious. He'd fallen in love with her. Somewhere between the arguments and the late-night noodles and her absolute refusal to be impressed by his power, she'd become essential. Not just his business. To him. The call came at 2 p.m. "We found her," Jin-ho said. "Warehouse in Incheon. She's alive but injured. They want $50 million and your withdrawal from the Singapore market." "Is she hurt?" "Broken arm. Some bruising. She's conscious. Tell them we'll negotiate. Stall them. I'm coming personally." "Sir, that's not. I'm coming personally." The warehouse was exactly what he expected. Industrial. Isolated. Designed for this kind of transaction. He walked in alone, as instructed, carrying a briefcase with tracking devices and emergency signals built into the lining. Zara was tied to a chair in the center of the room. Left arm clearly broken, face bruised, but eyes clear and furious. "You shouldn't have come," she said the moment she saw him. "Did you really think I'd send someone else? I thought you'd be smart enough not to walk into an obvious trap." The rival boss stepped out of the shadows. Park Jin-woo. A man Dae-hyun had been carefully dismantling for 2 years. "Kong Dae-hyun," Jin-woo smiled. "So predictable. I knew you'd come for her yourself. You're too proud to send subordinates. And too attached to this woman to think clearly. The money's in the briefcase. Release her." "Oh, I will. After you sign this." He slid a document across the floor. "Withdrawal from all markets I've designated. Transfer of your shipping contracts. And a public apology for interfering with my operations. And if I refuse?" Jin-woo pulled a gun. Aimed it casually at Zara. "Then I kill the woman you love and frame you for her murder. Police will find all kinds of interesting evidence in your office." Dae-hyun looked at Zara. She was shaking her head slightly. "Don't do it," her eyes said. "Don't sacrifice everything for me." But she didn't understand. She'd spent weeks telling him he was too isolated, too controlled, too afraid to be human. And she was right. He'd spent 12 years being untouchable, building power, refusing weakness. And in this moment, facing a choice between his empire and her life, he discovered something crucial. Being untouchable meant nothing if everyone he might have loved was out of reach. "I'll sign," he said. Dae-hyun, "No," Zara started. "I'll sign everything. Just let her go." Jin-woo laughed. "Love makes you weak." "Maybe. But isolation made me cruel." "I'll take weak." He reached for the pen. And Zara, still tied to the chair, did something completely insane. She threw herself backward, chair and all, creating just enough chaos for Dae-hyun's security team, who'd been surrounding the warehouse for the past 20 minutes, to breach. The next 60 seconds were controlled chaos. Jin-woo's men went down. Jin-woo himself tried to run but ran directly into Jin-ho. And Dae-hyun ran to Zara, cutting the ropes, checking her injuries, his hands shaking in a way they hadn't shaken since he was 22 years old. "You were going to sign," she said, wincing as he helped her up. "Yes. You were going to give up everything." "Not everything. Just money and territory. I'd still have what matters." Which is? He looked at her, bruised, fierce, absolutely unbroken despite everything. You. I'd still have you. You can't have me, Zara said softly. I work for you. That's inappropriate. Then you're fired. You can't fire me. Your mother hired me. Then I'll negotiate with my mother. Daehyun. I spent 12 years being untouchable. And it made me exactly what you said, isolated, lonely, cruel. You walked into my life and made me human again. I'm not going back to being untouchable. Not if it means losing you. Sunmi was waiting for them at the hospital. You used my analyst as bait, she said the moment Daehyun walked in. I didn't know they'd target her. You should have. The moment she exposed their operative, she became vulnerable. You should have protected her. I tried. Not hard enough. She has a broken arm and a concussion because you didn't think clearly. Zara, sitting on the hospital bed with her arm in a cast, interrupted. With respect, Madam Kang, he saved my life. He endangered it first. He endangered it by letting me do my job. Which is exactly what you hired me to do. Sunmi studied her. You're defending him. I'm stating facts. Your son has spent 12 years building an empire designed to be invulnerable. The moment someone targeted me, someone outside that empire, it exposed a weakness he didn't know he had. Which is, he cares about people. He's just been too afraid to admit it. Sunmi sat down. You're in love with him. That's not. Don't insult my intelligence. I've been watching both of you for 5 weeks. He looks at you the way his father used to look at me. Like you're the only real thing in a world of performance. Zara was quiet. The problem, Sunmi continued, is that you work for this family. Romantic involvement creates conflicts of interest. Which is why it can't happen, Zara said firmly. Or why we restructure your role. Make you a partner with equity. Equal standing. No power imbalance. Daehyun, who'd been listening from the doorway, stepped in. Mother, you can't just. I can do whatever I want. I own 51% of the voting shares. Remember? She stood. Looked at both of them. Here's what's going to happen. Dr. Mitchell will take 2 weeks to recover. During that time, you will both decide if this is real or if it's proximity and gratitude. If it's real, we restructure. If it's not, she continues as analyst with appropriate boundaries. And if we can't decide? Daehyun asked. Then you're both smarter than I thought, and you'll figure it out. She left. Zara and Daehyun sat in silence. Your mother is terrifying, Zara said finally. She's protective. There's a difference. She just gave us permission to date while also making it a business decision. That's complicated. Everything in my life is complicated. Why should this be different? Zara laughed, then winced. Don't make me laugh. Broken ribs. He moved closer. Sat on the edge of the hospital bed. I meant what I said in that warehouse. I'd have given up everything. That's not sustainable. You can't build a relationship on grand gestures and sacrifice. Then what do you build it on? Truth. Partnership. Showing up every day and choosing each other even when it's not dramatic. I can do that. Can you? You've spent 12 years avoiding emotional vulnerability. You've spent 5 weeks making it impossible to avoid. I think I'm getting better at it. You were going to sign away your empire. That wasn't vulnerability. That was desperation. What's the difference? Vulnerability is sitting in this hospital room admitting I don't know how to do this. Admitting I'm terrified of caring about you because everyone I've ever cared about either left or died. Admitting that you've become more important than the empire I've spent 12 years protecting. Zara reached for his hand with her good arm. That's a start. Just a start. You've been untouchable for 12 years. Learning to be human again isn't going to happen in 5 weeks. It's going to take time. Patience. Work. I'm good at work. Different kind of work. The kind you can't control or strategize. The kind that requires trust. I trust you, he said. Then prove it. Take 2 weeks off. No business. No empire management. Just exist. As a person. Not a king. That's terrifying. I know. Do it anyway. He looked at their joined hands. At this woman who'd walked into his life and dismantled every defense he'd spent years building. Okay, he said. 2 weeks. But only if you spend them with me. I have a broken arm. Then we'll do things that don't require 2 arms. She smiled. That's your idea of romance. Let's do things that accommodate your injury. I'm new at this. Give me time. I'm giving you 2 weeks. Don't waste them. The 2 weeks were strange. Dae-hyun, who hadn't taken a vacation in 12 years, found himself doing absolutely nothing productive. They went to museums. He'd never been to a museum for pleasure. They watched movies. He couldn't remember the last time he'd sat through a film without checking his phone. They cooked dinner together in her apartment, or rather, she directed while he attempted to follow instructions with his usual intensity applied to chopping vegetables. "You're approaching that onion like it's a hostile takeover," Zara observed. "I don't know how else to approach things. Try gentleness. Not everything requires aggressive precision." And slowly, hour by hour, day by day, he started to understand what she'd been telling him for weeks. Being powerful wasn't the same as being strong. Being untouchable wasn't the same as being safe. And being in control wasn't the same as being alive. On day 11, they were walking through a park, something he'd never done, just walked without purpose, when she asked, "What are you thinking about?" "That I've been wrong about everything." "That's dramatic." "I spent 12 years thinking vulnerability was weakness. That needing people made you exploitable. That the only way to survive was to be untouchable. And now? Now I think I was just afraid. After my father died, being untouchable felt safer than being human. But safe isn't the same as happy." They sat on a bench. The city moved around them, indifferent to the Mafia king having a revelation. "Are you happy now?" Zara asked. "I'm terrified. And confused. And completely out of my depth. But yes, I think I'm happy. That's progress. Is it enough?" "For what?" He turned to face her. "For you to consider making this permanent. Define permanent. Partnership. Real partnership. In business and in life. My mother's restructuring proposal. Equity stake. Equal standing. Everything. That's a significant commitment. I'm aware. You're asking me to tie my life to a man who, 3 months ago, couldn't remember the last time he laughed. Yes, but I'm also promising to be a man who learns. Who tries. Who shows up." Zara was quiet for a long moment. "I have conditions. I'd expect nothing less. 1. You maintain the progress you've made. No reverting to the untouchable act when things get difficult." "Agreed." 2. We build this as equals. Not boss and employee. Not powerful man and his analyst. Partners. "Agreed." 3. You let me keep challenging you. Keep calling you out when you're wrong. Keep refusing to be intimidated. "That's the only way I want you," he said. And 4. You accept that loving someone means giving them the power to hurt you. Means being vulnerable. Means trusting that I won't use that power to destroy you. That's the hardest one. I know. Can you do it? He thought about the past 12 years. The isolation. The control. The careful distance he'd maintained from everyone. And he thought about the past 2 weeks. The museums and the movies and the terribly chopped onions. "I can try. I can't promise I'll be good at it. But I can promise I'll try. That's all I'm asking." He kissed her. Right there on the park bench, in full view of anyone walking by, with none of the control or calculation he usually brought to everything. Just a man kissing the woman he loved. Simple. Imperfect. Human. 3 months later, at a board meeting, Sunmi announced the restructuring. Dr. Zara Mitchell was now a full partner with 15% equity stake. Equal authority in all major decisions. The board members who'd been there the day she walked into the contaminated property negotiation tried to hide their smiles. The new members looked shocked. Dae-hyun stood. "One more announcement. Effective immediately, I'm implementing a new policy. Every executive in this company will undergo quarterly external audits by analysts who have no financial interest in approving our decisions. No more yes men. No more missing critical information. We operate with accuracy, not just confidence." He looked at Zara. "I learned from someone very wise that power without accuracy is just expensive failure. We're done failing." After the meeting, Jin-ho approached them both. "You know people are calling you the untamable tamed, right?" Dae-hyun laughed. "I wasn't tamed. I was freed. Same thing, isn't it?" "Not even close. Taming implies control." "She didn't control me. She reminded me I was human. That I could choose connection over isolation. That being vulnerable doesn't mean being weak." Zara smiled. And? And that the strongest thing I ever did wasn't building an empire no one could touch. It was letting you touch me anyway. 6 months later, at their wedding, Jinho gave the toast. I've worked for Daehyun for 12 years. For most of that time, he was the most untouchable man I'd ever met. Brilliant. Powerful. Completely alone. He raised his glass toward Zara. And then this woman walked into his boardroom, sat in his chair, and told him he was making a mistake. Most people who've done that didn't live to tell about it. Laughter. But Zara did something different. She didn't just challenge him. She saw him. The real him. Under all the power and control and untouchable armor. She saw a man who was lonely and afraid and desperate to be human again. And instead of using that knowledge to exploit him, she helped him. She showed him that being vulnerable isn't weakness. That needing people doesn't make you exploitable. That love is the only thing worth being untouchable for. He looked at Daehyun. To the man who was untouchable until he met the one woman who refused to be impressed by it. May you both stay exactly this human forever. They raised their glasses. And Kang Daehyun, former untouchable Mafia king, current happily vulnerable husband, kissed his wife and thought. Being untouchable was power. But being loved? That was everything.